Oh, you're going to like this. Go ahead, Theory.
And yet I always seem to second guess, cause of my skin tone, they saying that I'm just a guest. Plus I was 30, so they started coming at my neck. So many shots been fired, I've been feeling like I need a vest. I'ma show them what I got, and all the ones who said I'd fail, I'll admit my shit is hot. And all the ones who came before me, I'ma see them at the top. Cause I ain't never gonna stop, now I ain't never gonna stop until I drop.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. I'm here with a couple great veterans. Before we get started and go into everything, I want to do a quick plug on my book. Make sure you buy it. It's on Amazon. I know the QR code is covered. Normally, I just tell people to scan the QR code, but this is the first time I've ever had two guests at one time on my show. Speak Up, Show Up, Lead, the veteran story of grit, growth, and leadership from the ground up. And it's my story and the lessons I've learned in my life, and it's supposed to inspire people to go out and do great things. And again, if this is your first time ever tuning in to Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast, this show is designed to inspire veterans, whether it's during their transition or at a slump in their life, to get off the couch and get back in the game. So we'll go ahead and start with introductions here. I have Nathan and Cameron, and Nathan, I don't know which one it is, but we're getting a lot of feedback from one of y'all.
Ain't me.
No, probably Cameron.
Yeah.
But it's you're okay. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. You know, you gotta love these live streams.
Yeah. Sorry, I had my garage door open.
Nope, you're fine. So we'll go in order of who I have on the screen here. Nathan, would you mind giving your introduction first? Just telling everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey, I'm Nate. I am transitioning after 26 years of service, retiring as a command sergeant major and an infantryman. Right. Was blessed enough to be forced by good leadership to get a few degrees before I got out. None of them very meaningful, but they checked the block. You know, just entering into the civilian world and trying to figure out what that's going to be like. See if I can leverage what I've learned through these 26 years and help others.
Well, thank you for coming on here today. I'm really excited about this discussion. And Cameron, it kind of started with you, but tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into the whole inspiration behind this episode, which was actually old Sergeant Major over here giving us all a kick in the ass and saying, let's do this, and Cameron having the idea to do it on this platform. But Cameron, go ahead and give your intro, buddy.
Sure. So my name's Cameron Gemoets. I just recently retired after 20 years in the United States Army. I actually used to work for Nate, so that's how we know each other. And, you know, he's one of the greatest human beings I know on the planet. Let's see. I am a capital project manager in the wastewater treatment division at King County currently. I also am a mortgage loan originator for the veteran lending team. So if you need a VA loan, go ahead and hit me up, or any other loans. There's my shameless plug. And then, I'm an open book. I honestly find true passion in helping people. JJ, we met months and months and months ago. Like, you probably knew that from the get-go. Like, I try to pay it forward as much as possible. So, yeah.
That's what it's all about. And, you know, this episode was, as I said, it was kind of brought to fruition through a post that you put up on LinkedIn, and it was talking about transition. And Nathan over here mentioned in there that, you know, you basically killed your transition, the whole process behind your transition. And I know a little bit about that because you and I were talking about that as you were getting ready to finish that process before you went into the civilian world. But, you know, we really haven't talked much about it since you finished and actually started going out and doing your thing. So why don't we go ahead and get started on that? But actually, you know what? Before we do that, I said we were going to do it and then I forgot. So it is Memorial Day. And it's important for everybody to understand that, you know, everyone goes out and says Happy Memorial Day. It's for people like us. It's not, we celebrate the people in our lives who have had to pay the ultimate sacrifice in a different way, but we don't necessarily call it a happy Memorial Day. But what we do normally do is pay tribute to those in our own way, whether it's through prayer or through conversation or whatever the case may be. But because we're having this live stream on Memorial Day, I would like to do a moment of silence. I'm going to bow my head in prayer. Anybody who's listening, or the two of you guys on here, you can have that moment any way that you wish. But we're going to take a moment of silence for all of those veterans who have had to make that ultimate sacrifice. We all sacrifice in our service, but some pay that ultimate sacrifice. And I'd like to pay a tribute to them real quick before we move forward with our conversation. Okay. Thank you. And guys, thank you for being patient there. I'm sure it's not a big deal for you guys, but it's kind of a big deal that I did that today. I kind of been thinking about it most of the day. It's kind of an interesting thing. I just went to a Ren fair with my son, and they did a little Memorial Day. Yes, it was fun. They did a little Memorial Day ceremony there, and they were all dressed up in their garb and all that. And so, for me to have another moment like that just on my podcast, it's kind of a special thing. But now I promise, Cameron, we can go, and now we can talk about your transition and get a good conversation going for the next 20 minutes.
Okay, great. Where you want to start?
Well, obviously, if an old CSM here got super excited about how that went for you, I want to know why. I mean, what did you do that was special that made you made everything work out for you after you transitioned? I know the last time we talked, you were already prepping. You were already prepping, and you weren't even out yet. But that's special within itself. But I'd like to know the rest of the story. What happened next? And then after you hung up that uniform, what happened after that?
Okay. So the prep was everything. That's the truth. Like the willing to prepare, the willing to suffer, the willing to do late nights. And like, it was everything. I jotted three pages of actual notes actually. So I can kind of walk you through my transition in how it worked out. So this first step was to make that early decision to retire. I did 3.5 years out. Not unfortunately, but I had a sudden hey, oops, we're pregnant again. And it almost threw a Hail Mary in there, but I stayed committed to my option to get out. So that was 3.5 years out. Now that's a big decision for anyone. You're leaving everything, the insulation you have. And even for me and my family, we were like, whoa, what is this new world we're going into? But 3.5 years out, I was like, okay, so we got to get financially right. We got to get, we got to start looking at timelines. Are we moving? Are we not moving? What's happening? There's a lot going on. And then people I came across was like, hey, you'll be fine. 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 And everyone hears that. And it's like, okay. So a couple things that I did, and I think Nate loved, is that I talked about my transition almost every day. Every day he would see me, I'd be like, hey, Sergeant Major, you have me for 129 more days. I would give people the date. So that was kind of an indicator to him and everyone around me, when you need to replace me for to maintain the force, right? Because it wasn't me being a jackass. It wasn't. It was me being hey, I know the team still needs to move. I know the team still has a job to do. And I was given ample time outside of work, and I had a blessed command, Nate and Jimmy and everyone in between, whoever I talked to was hey, go pursue your PMP, go finish your college degree, go do all these things. And I did. But at the same time, when they called and they said, hey, you got to go to Camp Roberts, California for 30 days. Okay, cool. You got to be very flexible in your transition. Give and take, give and take. Tell your command what you want. And if they can give it to you, great. If they can't, great. So I leveraged early submission incentives. So I took advantage of Army policy allowing retirement packet submission 2 years out. So that to me was like, hey, I'm done. You got really a year and a half with me, and then I'm done. They gave me the early approval, which was amazing. Like I think I got my retirement approval within 90 days of submitting, which was insane. And I had actual orders within 30 days after that. So I had effective orders for almost 19 months. So I was just like, oh, okay. Well, what do I do? And this takes me into my next segment of I did the hurry up and wait, because that's really what it was. You hurry up, you get all the paperwork done, and you're waiting. Well, I made a clear decision to be proactive in my transition. I had to figure out how I was going to finish my education in that time frame, because I had a degree I had to finish up. I was like pursuing a PMP. I pursued Scrum Master, and I still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I still don't, but like it's okay.
We learn something new about ourselves every day, don't we?
Yeah. Like I think I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. But I think in that whole process of the, I call it the hurry up and wait, is just like I decided not to wait. I didn't wait. Like I think I texted Nate a million times and I'd be like, hey, can I do this? He's like, sure, cool, go do this. Or I'd text a couple other leaders and they'd be like, yeah, sure, go do this, cool. And like I was just very clear, like being very clear about my intention. Like, hey, like I'm here for the team if you need me. But like at one point or another, this army is going to keep rolling along. We sing a song about it and everything. So like, let's keep going. But I think, JJ, one of the biggest things I did that's different than I've seen, heard, and you've interviewed tons of people. Like I talked to everyone I could in a small span. I gave myself 30 days when I filed my retirement packet. And I talked to, if I did the metric right, it's like 122 people. And I called random companies on LinkedIn. I talked to random people. I didn't know these people. And I asked them, what's more important, the military service or a college degree? That was my only question for them. Because I needed to know, did I really need to finish that college degree? How heavy was this? Because I didn't know after 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, that's your barrier to entry.
Yep.
The college degree. Yeah.
Yeah. They said, that's your barrier to entry. So I started looking for cohorts that could kind of help me push me along. I tripled down on classes. Like I obviously I finished, like it was taxing, but I did it. And then I started looking into certifications because I kept seeing like, I think it's Act Now Education, that group. They start popping up and like PMP, CompTIA Plus, Sec Plus, Net Plus, all this. And I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do. I'm just going to do it all. I really was like throwing paint at a wall and seeing what stuck. Like, that's the truth. That's the complete truth. Like, because you have to do a ton of self-discovery in your transition. And if you don't do a ton of self-discovery, like you're going to fall on your face so fast. So I started backwards though, a little bit. So when I figured out I needed to do self-discovery, I took a pause, like in, my favorite thing is saying tactical pause, because it literally was, nothing stopped moving, but like, you got to stop for a second and figure out which way you're going, do a map check real quick. And I figured out all the things I don't want to do. That's where I started. I didn't want to be outside 12 hours a day digging ditches. Cool. I didn't want to be deployed to another continent away from my family anymore. Cool. All right. And I want to make this much money. Okay. And I want some flexibility in my life. Like when I'm off work, I'm off work. Okay. And then I just kind of started narrowing it down. So I went to 4 block. So we're talking about a year and a half out, year out. Yeah, about a year out. I went to 4 block. I met Monica McNeil. She is like literally the GOAT of all networkers in the Pacific Northwest. Holy cow. And are you familiar with 4 block, JJ?
No.
Okay, so 4 block is an amazing organization. It's totally free to the veteran. I can't say it enough. And what it is like they put you in these little cohorts of transitioning service members, and they have a kind of a handshake agreement or maybe even a written agreement. I'm not sure. But you go to Fortune 500 companies or whatever metro you're in after hours, and you speak to veterans at their company and figure out if this is the right thing. So on my journey, I got to go to like Alaska Airlines, Accenture, then we went to McKinstry, Stryker, like all sorts of cool places. And like you can literally ask them like what these hiring managers who are there, you're like, what do you actually value? Like, where can I land? You bring your resume. We went to PACCAR over in Bellevue, and my resume looked like my first NCOER I ever wrote as a young E5.
They all are.
Yeah, it was bleeding. And I was excited about it. I was super excited about it. Like, I felt really excited because I knew I was on the right track if it's bleeding, because I'm wrong. I need to be wrong right now. I can't be right. I can't get out of the Army and be like, oh, I just did 20 years. I know everything. Haha. Nope. I needed to be wrong. I knew I needed to be wrong. So I literally took that and ran with it. And I sent out the same resume to 5 other people. And I watched the notes come in, and they were all about the same. And like they were like, hey, your heading's wrong. Don't put this in there. You need to quantify this. You need to really sit down and think about this. Like, what does this actually mean to the business world? This, that, and the other. Because when I was pursuing things, I was pursuing kind of like program management, because I just came off being a knowledge management program manager. So I was like, okay, yeah, I could do that. And then I find out that like program management in the civilian world is a lot different than in the military world. Like, you can't just kind of be hurled into it, kind of like you do, hey, you're the UA guy. You're now a program manager technically, but you're not.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, so I was really fortunate to be at First Army of all things, like as my final duty station. As my unit, I had so many like opportunities throughout the 4 years I was there to talk with National Guardsmen who had other jobs. So like from the time I got here in 2020, I was already talking to people. I'm like, whoa, what do you do in the real world? Hey, like I'm engineer at Amazon. What does that do? I mean, we're doing live fires, but like at the same time, like they're reloading ammo, and you're just asking them who they are and what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Nate told me customer service is over everything, so I had to make sure I knew my customer. Yeah, and then go ahead.
Well, no, I was just curious. So during all of this, you said you had the support of your command. And to me, that's going to mean something different. I retired as a warrant officer. So that's going to be different to me than it means to a mid-range NCO. And it'll mean even something even different to maybe a junior NCO or somebody who's E4 and below. So what does, maybe from both Nate's and Cameron's perspective, what does that mean to show support as the command? And what did maybe Nate, what did you get for support now that you're going through your transition? And Cameron, what did that mean to you?
Okay. You're first. You can go first.
Okay. What I got for support, I actually got harassed that I wasn't spending enough time taking care of myself. Right? Like,
you're welcome.
When I went to the Stryker Warfighters Forum in First Corps, there's 3 other people in the office all together. We're all senior, and we're all experts in our specific purpose for being there, right? So no one needs babysat, no one needs, watched over, and there's just minor day-to-day business, keep the lights on stuff that I had to manage, on top of travel stuff and accountability and supply request, all the normal stuff, right? So most of the day I was doing PMP self-study as well, right? And reaching out to my network and trying to prepare for things. But then we would do so many TYs, and like, are you sure you can go? Like, yeah, like the team needs me there. A lot of the things that we're dealing with now as a program, as far as the striker itself, the comms, the power generation, the weapon system, whatever, are overly flawed because the NCO representation that should have been in the room when they were discussing these things wasn't there, right? Good, bad, or otherwise. Myself, the man before me, the man before him, they're all there temporarily as they're transitioning, right? So it's not any fault of anybody's. It's just the way it is. So it's like, yeah, I care about this platform. I'm going to go. So my support was, hey, how about you stop doing that and start taking care of yourself, which I really didn't do as much as I should have. And I'm paying the price for it now by doing a whole lot of credentialing and certification stuff, all at the same time. And now it's going to be, not in the background, but either before or after work. Right. So I had great support. The problem is, we've changed. I say the Army has decided to change how they support transitioning soldiers and leaders broadly. Right. And, we used to, like, why is it that I can take an E4 that, didn't finish the 4-year contract they signed up for and give them 6 months to go do this thing, but a guy that spent 30 years leading soldiers and fighting our nation's wars and doing whatever gets 90 days, and that's if they're lucky, right? And we just kind of made it worse for the senior folks. Which I get. There's this assumption that like Cam and I discussed a little bit. He was like, "Hey, does the Army this 20-year career mean more than the degree?" Like, no, the fuck it doesn't. Yeah. And even though the Army has given you the means to earn degrees and credentialing and all that, most of your committed leaders don't have the tools, and I say tools, but it's one specific tool, and it's usually time, right? You don't ever have more time than you had when you were a private, right? After your first, 6 months, maybe a year, before you figure out how things operate, kind of figure out your own little OCD, set this up the night before and do things a certain way to save time and whatever. After that, life, you're a college kid, basically. You do the work that's put on you, you meet your requirements, but when you're not doing that, you're getting hammered and going to the gym and gym tan laundry with your homies, and that's Love life, it. Right? But you don't know how much time you're wasting. And if you were aggressive and conscientious of that time that you're wasting, you probably have a fully developed frontal lobe and joined at 30, right? Not 17 to 19 like most, right? So those kids, I don't disagree, need a good amount of time to set themselves up for success. But that staff sergeant who has committed to doing things right and saying, hey, I got a guy that struggles at this type of PT. When we all go home for the day, I'm going to his room. We're getting back into PTs and we're going to go work out, another 2 hours on the day. And that's after all the other, stuff that's happened. Right. And then I got to go home and prepare for the counselings and try to do, spend some time with my family and all the things. Right. So, and it just gets worse as you go up. And the Army gives you opportunities. They do. And that's really what sparked the idea for needing to do this, is that the Army, if you do it long enough, will give you opportunities where leaders are going to look at you and say, hey, this is your chance to take a knee, catch your breath. And the problem is that's taken far too literal. And it's the same when it comes to your transition, right? Folks are like, oh man, just take your leave and do nothing for a while, man. Like, wait until you're antsy and desperate. It's like, but again, you wasted all that time when you could have been certifying, credentialing, finishing your degree, networking, low stress events when you weren't hunting for a job. And now you're like, I'm desperate for a job. I need to find something to do, and I need to do those things at the same time. And that's not a good place to be, right? So that, you can, he said he was lucky that he was in Atterbury and or not Atterbury, but ACRC. And that's true. My time in ACRC as a sergeant first class, without it, I would have never put on a wreath. My CSM was very clear. You're not going to get all excellence on your NCOER if you're not doing college, and you don't score this on your PT, and you don't X, Y, and Z, right? And he gave everybody time to do it. And he had the commander's full support in that, right? Well, okay, I came here to be with my daughter, and I know it's a speed bump for my career, so I can't afford to not get those ratings. So looks like I'm doing college. Looks like I'm doing Audie Murphy. Looks like I'm going to go crush PT. Looks like I'm going to raise my hand for absolutely everything this brigade does. But guess what? I still had tons of family time and tons of recovery time. And I, just like everybody else, the itch hit me at the same time to get back to soldiers. The difference being, I had been to, 2 badge producing schools, earned an associate's degree, become, Audie Murphy, had 3 or 4 NCOERs that were just insane because it was everything the unit was doing. But I still had time with family and friends and camping and all the things that, you do to take a knee, because the ACRC requirements are maybe 2 hours a day at most, and that's if you're being proactive, right? Places like Atterbury, you got guys that come in for 15 minutes, like, hey, I'm here, making sure you don't need me. All right, I'm going home now, right? Or going back to my tree stand or whatever. And I don't hate that, right? Like, there's not a lot. You have to be self-driving, self-motivated, and proactive. So, when Cam was focused on his transition, I'm like, good, that's a dude that's listening. And he didn't mention that he was still going to the gym and still PTing aggressively and still taking care of the team. He was still doing all the things that good non-commissioned officers do, but he was taking all the extra time that others would spend on their neck, in a book, in a class, in an opportunity to set himself up for the next step. So it's no coincidence that he landed multiple opportunities that are setting him and his family up for great success. That, full disclosure, it is a very comfortable gig. That the hard part was getting the qualifications to do the job. You know what I mean? And people are going to be like, oh, it must be nice. You're so lucky. I was like, no, you don't just fall into that. He was actually turned down for it first time. And then they came back and took a second look, and not at his resume, not at interview footage, not at people that gave him recommendations, a totally different place. And they're like, holy crap, you really care. Let's come sit down and talk with us again. And now, there's few people that aren't jealous of this, highly capable dude's transition. And he's exploiting it by doing multiple jobs. And now he doesn't do them at the same time, but he has time, right? There's 24 hours in a day, man. And if I got to be working for 8 of them, what am I doing for the other 16? I'm sure as fuck not sleeping.
Right.
So, that's where it's like, hey, we got to talk about this take a knee thing. And, there's this statistic, and it's accurate, that, somewhere 70 to 90% of all your careerist retirees hold an average of 5 jobs before they find the one that they're going to stick with. Right. And they're like, oh, it's normal. Don't be super committed. Find a job, you don't like it, move to the next one, But a lot of that, I believe, and we'll find out, can be mitigated by that proactive approach that he took, right? What are your red lines that you're not going to cross? What's the no pin line? Mm-hmm. What do I have to do to land the ones that meet what's left? right? This is what I want to be paid for my time. I'm willing to start here, but I need to have an avenue to get to here.
Yep.
How do I get my foot in the door to that organization? And like, it's not just having a list. He's very modest. Cam had a no shit to the hour daily 24-hour schedule that he followed. And everything that he did minute to minute was in it. And he stuck to it like he had me breathing on his neck all day. You know, like, no, it's time to get up and go do this thing. And he's like, I have to go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning because I have all the rest of my time filled out. And this is a dude that doesn't have any army anything going on, right? And it's that deliberate approach, right? People, I don't want to, you know, I've taken off the uniform for the last time, so I don't want to go into this rant, but it's the same thing that happens with kids that make excuses for not going to Ranger school, right?
Yeah.
Like, what Cam did isn't hard.
No.
Neither is Ranger school, but it sucked. And so does Ranger school. So people make excuses for not doing it. Like, I didn't have time in my transition. Well, that's weird. You could have done the 2-year retirement thing, you know. Like, there's ways. Now, I feel bad for the folks that retire in seat in critical leadership positions. I do.
Agreed.
But I will tell you that there's a conversation that can be had with the right person at almost any time. It's like, hey, if you did your job prior to dropping that packet, right, there is someone one step below you that should have been mentored and developed to the point that they can cover down. And this is great learning time. It might be a critical event, right? Going to Thailand or India, or going to the pin for a Korea rotation, or even deploying, or live fires or whatever. But like, even live fires, especially in preparation for a rotation to a CTC, right? Like, so why would you keep me if you know you're not going to have me?
Yep.
Have this man do it. You maintain your certification. He gets the experience. There's safeties everywhere. No one's going to get hurt. The kid needs the reps. It's going to be his job in a little bit. Let him have it. Yeah. And, you know, but there's this look that's, you know, you committed, you're on this contract to, you know, you're not retired until this date. Like, yeah, I know that. Do you know how many people, you know, Cam in the course of his 20 years has helped succeed in and out of the uniform? You know, like, the time that we spend in uniform is more than the job that we have right now. We're not here because of how excellent we are at the job we have right now. We're here because of how well we did with the people we had at these points, and like, they enabled me to get to a certain point, and it's time for you to pay it back. You know what I mean? Like, you want me to review command and staff slides? I should be in a fucking PMP boot camp right now. So I don't care what you're read in. And you could have somebody that does care sitting here, because like, no one's going to get hurt on this, right?
Right.
Like, you know, there's a scale. If we're doing rail upload or download out at the ITD yard, yeah, that's time that I'm going to be there if I'm in the seat, because somebody could get hurt. Something could get lost. All kinds of things could happen there that, you know, having an experienced set of critical eyes, paying attention to the team, making sure it goes well, could be valuable.
I agree. You know, and you know, what I'm hearing from both of you is that what's most important, and I don't even think this is during transition. You know, a lot of these guys, they're worried about getting promoted. Well, guess what? If you're not intentional about making sure you're getting those points and doing and doing the right amount of PT to do well on that part of it, and doing all of the things, then you're not going to get that next seat. Well, if you want that next seat when you're outside of the military, you got to do those certain things that will get you there. And, you know, here's something that's very, very interesting that you said. I was the only one. So I was a mobility warrant officer when I was in, and I resonate with, and you're the only command sergeant major that was probably in your position until they maybe gave you somebody to do a left seat, right seat with. So what makes that interesting is that when you're the only one, you got to remember that the Army wheel keeps on turning. People seem to forget this. And we preach for years and years and years. I did when I was a sergeant first class and below, and I did when I became a warrant and all that other stuff, that you should always be training your replacement, because if something happens to you, who's going to pick up the torch and run with it? Well, if you know you're retiring or you know that you're separating because you have a med board, it doesn't really matter what the situation is that you're separating. How are you going to, because we're not just going to give up on our job. It's not in our blood. And when you're a senior leader in the military, that is the most important thing to us. So how are you going to prepare that next person and prepare yourself at the same time? And Cameron did it. That's a lot of work, man. But how do we do that? And so every situation is going to be different, but Jocko was one that says this all the time. You gotta subordinate your ego and start handing some of your stuff over to somebody else so that job will keep on going when you're no longer wearing the hat. So
right.
I love that. Now we're just over 30 minutes, but Cameron, I mean, share what really truly, I know that you and Nathan have had conversations about this. That's why he put that comment he did up on the post there. And that's why we're here in the podcast. But what really made it hit a home run for you at the end? And then we can wrap it up today.
Okay.
So short. I like long.
No, it went fast.
Okay. So home run. So there's a couple singles and doubles that you have to do to get the home run, because you got to do a couple swings at the plate. So I leveraged my time extensively. Like Nate said, I had a literal from 04 to sleep, hour by hour, like schedule. And as close as I could, I stuck to it. I literally would make sure I stayed focused, and like Nate will tell you, I have like the unique ability to stay hyper focused for long periods of time and perform at high like capacity. So like if I get something in my mind, like get out of my way, it's happening. I don't care. My wife thinks it's like sometimes a little over crazy, but like she supports me and she's the best. So like, I don't care.
She is. She's an awesome woman.
And then, so you said home runs, and that's leveraging every amount of time I had. Number one. Number two, I was very vocal about what I wanted. I no longer started saying the team. I said me. And the team went from the Army to my family team. So I shifted the idea from team to family to my family, like Army family. And then when I was like, hey, I need a skill bridge. Well, who am I going to do a skill bridge with? Well, hey, I did it with ServiceNow. I did a 16-week program with them. Great. What's that going to do for you? Hopefully I land in tech and be a project manager in tech. That didn't work out. So like, that's cool. Hey, I'm going to apply to every job I can. I'm just going to shotgun blast it. By the way, that is not the best method to do things, but I did it.
Yeah, not unless you like having a full email with a bunch of, no, we're not going to hire you emails.
Yeah. I
Hey,
created
what's so bad about hearing no?
nothing.
Why does that shut people down, right? Like, who cares? Get a whole bunch of no's, man.
Well, no, but the reason that's not a good idea, Nathan, is because there's no strategy there. I like what Cameron is saying, because he went into the companies, had the conversations with the right people, and then got the job. If you're just throwing, when you're applying for a ton of jobs, it's the wrong thing is not that you're getting the no, it's that you're throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And there's no strategy to that.
Yeah.
So here's my thing though, right? We got to be clear when we're talking to folks that are seeking employment, right? Like, yeah, network, reach out, whatever company you're about to apply to, freaking, you can go on their page and find not all, but many of the employees that listed on their LinkedIn that, hey, I work here, and start finding folks that you have connections with or similarities to, or as a third or second connection, whatever. And if you don't have any connection with them, but hey, they went to this college, and you're like, I don't care if you're just like you're a fan of the team, right? Like, hey, I see that you're you went here. Like during these years, that was an amazing year for your football team. I also see you work at this company, and I'm highly interested in that field. Can we connect to discuss whatever? And then blast them out. Send the resume and fill out the application. And some of them are going to come back with, this is why we didn't take you. And now you know what you can work on, right? Like you're right. You need to have a strategy, but also don't be afraid to shoot one out there, man. Right?
Yeah.
You know, like we're not just popping claymores, right? But what's so bad about a no?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And you know, to that point, you know, if when you do, because out of all of those, you will get some interviews. Likely, I know I did. It took me over 6 months before I landed a gig once I actually started applying. But what, you know, I was throwing stuff out there, and I didn't have the right strategies either when I got out. You know. Figures another senior guy who's just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Above me, like kind of where Nate was.
Right.
Yeah. I tell you, it's the same thing that, you know, we Joes get this. Don't talk to senior people, right? When they're Joes, right? Like, why? Like I used to tell people all the time, if I see you, if I'm walking into the motor pool and we look like we're going to cross paths, and I see you like notice me and abruptly change your direction, I'm going to follow you because you changed direction for a reason, dog. Right? But if we cross paths and you shoot me a big smile and give me the greeting of the day and like, good morning, Sergeant Major, or whatever, you know, the worst case is I'm like, hey, you know, why are you unshaven? And they tell me, and it's like, okay, go fix it. But at least he was motivated and disciplined enough to say, hey, and he didn't dodge me, right? Like, that might be a net zero interaction, but if he is shaven and he's not all jacked up, that's a positive interaction. And enough of those piled up, I start to have a positive opinion of you. And when you need something or have a question, or like you come to me with like, hey, you know, I've been dealing with this problem, is there anything that we can do organizationally to help? Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, let's talk, let's figure this out. As opposed to the guy that's always running away from me, that is now, without anything bad happening, has caused you know, this negative mindset. Like, okay, he's always avoiding me for some reason, and I've never even talked to the kid. You know, like those like, what is so bad about a no? And if you hear a no, that's different with the job, you know, market and applying for a job, but especially in uniform. Don't accept a no until you talk to the person who has the authority to say no.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I'm telling you, if there's not, you know, commanding at the end of their signature block, that's not them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, now don't play that card if you aren't fully qualified for what you're trying to do, or fully, you know, whatever, but don't be failing a PT test and wondering why I can't get sent to Ranger school. Right. But like, you know, the point is still salient though. It's still sound, you know? Yeah. And what I will tell folks, man, the you know, because you're wanting to close it, but I have to get this out there, is every day that you're in uniform and you are not working towards some sort of credentialing or college hour towards a degree, you are wasting time, because you are not going to have enough time to get everything that you need done.
No.
After you decide it's time to retire.
Definitely.
Right? And I'm here to tell you, the company's not going to hire you, then credential you on their own dime, unless you are overqualified in some other area and they're like, oh, you just need this little thing, right? But for most of us coming out, right, it's you know, let's do you have the degree, right? That's a check, yes or no block. For many of them, it doesn't matter what it is. Some it does, but and they have preferences. But like, if you don't have the associates, bachelors, or, you know, masters, and they all downgrade, right? Like preferably masters with this many years of experience. If not masters, then bachelors with even more experience, right? Like the math problem doesn't work in your favor unless you have the paper. Yep. It's the same thing that we talk about when you know, senior, you know, NCOs that are, we'll say, fluffy and slow. Or, you know, specialists that are fluffy and slow and weak, and, you know, can't talk their battle drills or their weapon systems or whatever. And they're like, oh, only the fast runners get promoted. It's like, well, our job is to close with and to destroy the enemy, right? And we do that very violently while wearing and carrying a lot of shit. And if you don't have the endurance to move 2 miles at an acceptable pace, how are you going to fight up the mountain? Now, that doesn't mean that the guy that can is a good leader, but I can work with that stuff. I can fix that. But if you don't have it in you to meet a good standard of fitness when your job is to lead people in combat, you probably have other issues that need to be addressed as well, right? And it's the same thing with the paper, right? It's not what you have the degree in, it's that you have the capacity to stick to something, see it through, even though it's challenging, and get that piece of paper. Hey, they did it. They did it. They can listen to instruction. They can go out and learn. They can produce on time to standard, right? Like that's a job requirement. I'm sorry. That's what every employer needs, right? They need confirmation, and that's what that is. So you do it in the background. And if you look at like your 25 series kids, they're always doing their, network security, IT certification stuff the whole time they're in uniform, because they're going to transition to Microsoft, Google, Amazon, whatever, and get paid triple what you're getting paid to lead them through PT. Just do it. Do it. You're not going to make up the time, and you're not going to have more time. I'll do it at my next job. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
no,
see.
That's not going to happen. No, thank you for sharing that. And Cameron, before we wrap this up, do you have anything that you'd like to add real quick?
Yeah, sure. Just take.
If I have to.
No, not like that. Like, honestly, okay. Number one, if any one of your followers wants to connect, just send me a connection with a little note. I'll definitely hop on any call whenever I have time. Like, I'm a pretty open book. I know the transition process is unique to everyone's situation. That's the truth. But the framework is the same. Like, you have to be focused. Yep. You have to exercise the transition muscle to get it to work in your favor. You can't get big in the gym if you don't go eat right and go to the gym. Like that's just kind of how it works. And then you ask for a home run. I say it's literally being loud. Like that was it. Like it's like at one point I was trying to apply for VP jobs just to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Just to have somebody look at my resume and be like, why not me? Tell me why. Like, where would you put me? Like, I would ask for informational interviews at companies I've never heard of. I averaged for 52 weeks. I did the metrics. Like, I actually logged every person I ever talked to during my entire transition in a Notion calendar and everything. I averaged 6 phone calls a day, 3 Zooms a week, 1 in person a month for a year. Exactly. Thanks.
That's good. That's a lot of work, but
where did that sound come from?
I don't know.
Was there a weird sound? I didn't hear it.
You can't hear it? Someone's playing the womp womp womp.
That's hilarious.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And then I did, from the time of September, starting my skill bridge to the day that I actually landed my job I'm at now, I did some upwards of 2,000 resumes. Like, just throwing paint at the wall. Like we said, that's not the best method, but I will tell you this: apply early and often. Apply for everything that you might be even interested in, that you can kind of relate to what you've done. Because if you can relate it to, you can talk on it, and then maybe the hiring manager see your potential to even place you in that company. I had some really interesting interviews and interesting conversations. They just said I didn't have the education requirement, or hey, I didn't have a background in aerospace engineering. Like, that would have been a cool one, but I've never been to the moon, so
That's awesome. So that's all sound advice. And when it comes down to transition, I'm sure that everyone who's going through the TAP program or has been through the TAP program is probably sick of hearing this, but it's all about how you prepare yourself. When you go to a field exercise, we have conversations about it for months and months and months ahead of time. Why would you treat your transition any differently? I mean, when we go and do you talk about doing tips and scales over at the ITD. Well, I've been stationed over there before. So, I mean, if we rock drill a simple operation like that, which isn't super simple, but I'm mobility, so I guess it probably was for me. But, if we rock drill an operation like that, why wouldn't we play things through for our transition? I mean, you just got to prepare yourself. So, I
Exactly.
mean, that's really what this call was all about. And I appreciate you both taking the time out of
Absolutely.
your Memorial Day to have it. I think it's important. I think people need to hear this stuff. And really, this whole podcast is designed, as I said in the beginning, to get people off the couch and back in the game. Don't lose your identity. Everything you did in the military was you. You're still
Yep.
that person. Just because you're not wearing the uniform anymore doesn't mean you can't do all that same stuff that you were doing before. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, again, thank you both for being here. It's Memorial
Thanks for
Day,
having us.
celebrate. If you're going to barbecue, I'm not going to do a full safety brief, but my goodness, go out there and be safe. Don't drink too much and all that other crap.
Yeah.
You do what you want. You do what you like.
Okay, there you go. Follow.
They ain't
follow
my
some
barracks
ladies'
anymore.
advice. Right, you're not your soldiers anymore. That's right. But yeah, and that's it. This is a episode of Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast, and we're wrapping it up.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Good luck, everyone.